One of the questions I get asked every single day is, Flo, should I buy now or should I wait? And the answer is it's not the same for everyone. So today we're doing a mid-year market check on what's happening in the current real estate market. Let's get into it. Welcome back to another episode of Fridays with Flo. I'm Flo Jacques, licensed real estate broker and investor with the Flo Estates here in Raleigh, Durham, North Carolina. And today we're going to be talking about the current market and what's happening in the 2026 summer market. The first thing that we should start with is understanding that the market has shifted. The market is not what it was last summer, let alone even 4 months ago. Things have shifted drastically. We're definitely not seeing homes fly off the shelf with a dozen offers within an instant of being listed. It's taking more time for homes to sell. Now, in some markets, you're still seeing homes go pretty quickly. And so if it's priced right, there's hot demand, then you're going to see some of that. But across the board in many states and some zip codes, you're going to see some homes sit a little bit longer. You're going to see a lot more price reductions. And so as a result, it means that inventory has increased. So buyers are taking their time, browsing through, but before you know it, you might see that house gone, just when you thought, I'll make a decision by the end of the week. You don't know. Maybe somebody has gone through and they made their decision and that home is now gone. So it's a fascinating market. Things are not moving as quickly, but they are still moving. So that's good news for sellers and for buyers, honestly. It doesn't mean that it's a bad market. It just means it's a more balanced market. Because homes are sitting on the market a little bit longer, when that buyer comes along that really wants that house, reasonably, your buyers are able to negotiate. So you're able to negotiate a little bit off of that purchase price, and you might be able to even get the seller to pay your closing costs. So much of it is quite different. I know that personally for me, a lot of my buyers are not only getting a little bit off of that purchase price, they're also getting the buyer to pay the full amount of closing costs and to make those repairs. Now, it really depends. Some sellers are very aggressive and they're not dealing with it. I've seen sellers say, we're giving you this much. The house is in immaculate condition. It's not that bad at all. And do you want it? Yes or no? And honestly, those types of scenarios where the house is in great condition, great neighborhood, and it's priced really well, that those are the scenarios where you're not exactly able to get them to pay all of your closing costs and make all of these repairs. You're going to have to give a little bit. So if you really want that house, take what you can get. But if you're willing to go elsewhere, there might be some scenarios where you're able to get more from that purchase than you thought before. So if we haven't said it already, it's a buyer's market. So a lot more negotiations are going in the buyer's favor. Given that homes are sitting on the market a little bit longer than sellers prefer, when the buyer comes along, they're willing to offer incentives. I have about 5 listings on the market in Durham, Raleigh, and Fayetteville, North Carolina. And for one of my listings in Raleigh, my seller is offering a full year of the HOA being paid. So that's just an example of how a seller is motivated and they're willing to offer things like paying a full year of the HOA fee. And at $185 a month, that's quite the save for you. These are being offered in forms of what we call seller concessions. And seller concessions are also known as seller credits. This is an amount that can get added to your closing costs. So let's just say you got $5,000 of seller concessions. This is a $5,000 credit to reduce your closing costs. Now, if you want it to be paid directly to the HOA, then in that case, the seller can truly send a check for the HOA and have that covered for you. Those are just examples and ways that you can get your home to move quickly. And if the buyer wants it, that's a really good and huge win for them and their family as well. As a seller, if you're thinking about selling, it's really critical to price strategically and to price to sell. Most homes I've seen where they're sitting on the market 6 months, 7 months. And although that was the norm over a few years ago, right before COVID, it took a while for a home to sell. A home sitting on the market for about a year was quite average. However, because we spent about 3 years in the post-pandemic market where homes were still going quickly, which caused home prices to skyrocket. And I say skyrocket because, I mean, in my market in Raleigh, Durham, we saw townhomes increase about $100,000 over the span of 12 months very quickly. I remember in 2021, I was looking at homes and my very first home at that time, and most 3 bedroom, 2 bathroom townhomes were about $180,000, $190,000. And about a year later in 2022, all of those townhomes were exactly $280,000. So truly, prices skyrocketed within the span of 12 months. But in this current market, you're not able to price at that amount anymore. I recently closed a townhome in Raleigh in a really nice neighborhood for $205,000. So that is going to just highlight how much of a change that how things have been. When homes are sitting on the market and the seller really wants to let it go, you can't help but have to adjust price because any home can sell. Any home in any condition, no matter where it is, molded, termite infested, in a flood zone, it can sell. It's all about the price. Somebody might not buy it for $200,000 given that it's molded, infested, and in a flood zone, but maybe for $100,000, somebody might do it, right? So every home can sell. It's all about pricing it correctly. In spite of, in this current market, there's still room for investors as well. For investors, it's all based on numbers anyway, whereas for the sellers and for the buyers, it's all based on emotion. Now, buyers are also looking at numbers. They're looking at numbers that reflect a comfortable mortgage payment for them. They're looking at ways where they don't have to bring any money to the closing table. And on the seller side, they're trying to walk away with the maximum profit they can. But given the circumstances, it's a balance on all sides. So the biggest thing to understand is to know who your audience is and to make it work with the one person in front of you that is willing to make it happen. I've gotten some investor offers on some of my listings and it's just not realistic. It's too low and the seller's not willing to do it. In some scenarios, it's just not going to work unless the buyer or investor, they're both the same, is willing to come up closer to what the seller is willing to do. Either way, there's a solution for every property on this current market. The most important thing that we haven't talked about here is timing the market. Stop trying to time the market. I often hear people say, I'm waiting for interest rates to drop, or I'm waiting for home prices to fall. Honestly, everything that you could want is entirely negotiable in this current market. Given that things are not moving as quickly, you are actually in a position where you can go and offer on a home and either ask for the seller to give you credit concessions to buy down your interest rate as low as the lender will allow it, because there is a cap on that. But either way, I was able to purchase my interest rate from 7.25% down to 5.8% using seller's money. So there's always ways to negotiate and get what you want. Now, interest rates in the current market is somewhere about 6.25, 6.5. So you could probably buy down your interest rate down to 4.9% or closer there. So everything you could want is negotiable. But as far as pricing the current market, no one has a crystal ball. Even a mortgage lender couldn't tell you what interest rates would be like tomorrow, let alone next month. No one knows what's going to happen except what the Federal Reserve decides to do. If you're financially prepared and you're ready to go, the best thing you could do is to make a move. No one can truly time the current market. We couldn't have told you that interest rates were going to drop down to 2.2% during COVID like it did. That was entirely unpredictable. But also, a huge disaster of a pandemic had to happen in order to get rates as low as it did. So I often laugh when people say, I'm waiting for the market to crash. And my immediate thought is, will you actually be able to take advantage of the market crashing, or are you going to be a victim of the market crashing? Because typically something terrible has to happen to the economy in order for the interest rates and home prices to go down as low as you think you want it to be. The best time to buy or sell isn't based on headlines. It's entirely based on your personal goals, finances, and your strategy. Real estate is a long-term investment. So if you're going after it, give it your all and strategize on your next deal. I hope you found today's conversation on the market insightful and helpful. If you did, please be sure to hit the like button, subscribe, and share this video with a friend. And I look forward to seeing you guys next Friday for our next episode of Fridays with Flo. Bye.